Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel Learn at Cloud Analytics. In this video, we will get ourselves acquainted with the Tableau desktop workspace, and we will also look at the options that are available for us when we are creating a worksheet or a dashboard and a story. And I will also highlight sections and functionalities that may be easily missed but could really be helpful whenever we creating our charts and dashboards in Tableau. So without any delay, let's get started. So as you see the interface that I've opened up here, so this is the Tableau desktop home page. So when you install this software and when you try to access to this application or this desktop application on your laptop or on your machine, this is the first interface that you would be looking at. Now, uh, once you're able to look at this interface, let me try to explain you about the workspace that you are currently looking at here. So we do have the section being categorized into here the left side you see the connect tab. So this is the page or the section which would allow us to connect to different data sets from Tableau, and below next to that connect pane we also see the open section which would allow us to access to the previously accessed workbooks or the work that you've been working on previously. You will be able to look at those workbooks within this open tab. And then we also have this below some sample data sets like the sample workbooks which are pre installed during the installation of this application. And towards the right section of this page, you see this additional information to allow us to uh, get to know about more about this application by going through some trainings or with some additional resources that have been provided from the vendor, which is the Tableau product here. All right. So now let's try to understand this connect pane where, like I did mention, this connect section would allow us to connect to different types of data sources on which we would like to build our data visualization within Tableau desktop. Now, this section has been categorized into three sections. The first section that you see within the connect pane is allowing us to connect to the published data sets that are there on the Tableau server. So if you have any such published data sources and using that published data source, if you wish to make or develop a new visualization or a dashboard within Tableau desktop, then you can directly connect to this Tableau server connection, and that would allow you to connect to the Tableau server and browse the data source on which you would like to build the visualization. And below that, we also see a section which is categorized for the file type data sources, which is the flat file connections. So here we have Microsoft Excel, text file, JSON file, Microsoft Access, PDF, spatial file, statistical file, and we also have an additional file connectors through the more option. So now when you click this more, it would allow us to select the different types of data sources. Like you here you can be able to select the drop down through which you would be able to understand what are the additional connectors through which you are able to connect within Tableau desktop. Now as you see here, you are able to connect to an existing workbook that is saved as a .twb extension or a packaged workbook with a .twbx extension, or you can connect to a Tableau data source or a package data source, and you are also able to connect to the local cube files that are stored on your machine. So you have additional set of additional connectors that would allow you to connect to those respective data sources and build your visualization on top of those resources. All right. Now, below this flat file connectors that we seen just now, below that we also have a segment or a section which would allow us to connect to a server based data sources. Now here, if you are able to connect to this or expand this more on this right arrow next to the more, you will be able to look at all the pre installed connectors or provided default connectors from Tableau product itself. Now Currently, I'm using the latest version, which is 2022.2 version, and therefore, at this particular version, I see the installed connectors are listed as 75 count. But in case if you're using a different version, then the connectors count might be varied according to that. Okay, so for every version that has been released from Tableau, the list of connectors have been increased and they are allowing you to connect and explore to different data sources and build a visualization on top of that particular data set. Okay, so now within this to flat file within the server related connectors that we are seeing at the moment, you are able to connect to the relational databases on top of which you can build the visualization, or you can also connect to a data warehouse related connectors as well. So you can just simply search for that particular data source that you're looking for your connection, and you can just type in, like, let's say that my data source is based out of Snowflake, so obviously I would have to make the connection with Snowflake connector. So first I would like to search for that respective connection from my search bar that I have on the top, and that would allow me to verify if this connector is already available from Tableau product, or if not, then I might need to look at the other possibilities for me to allow the connection to happen. Okay, so this search option will help you to navigate through the list of different connectors that have been provided here. And in case if your specific source has not been listed in this default installed connectors list, but your source does have a driver and that would allow us to connect through an ODBC or a JDBC driver, then you can also be able to establish that connection using this ODBC or the JDBC connectors. So that is about the different types of data sources through which you will be able to connect within Tableau desktop and build the visualization on top of that. Now below we also see the section for the save data sources. Now this is something which would help you to easily connect to a frequently used data source and build the dashboards on top of that data source. So assuming that in your real time scenario you might be working on a specific connection, like maybe an Oracle database related connection, right? So instead of every time you try to connect to that database and provide the details and uh, establish the connection within Tableau, you can just save that particular data source within Tableau, and that would allow you to easily connect and build the dashboards on top of that data source. Okay, and these the currently seen save data sources list is the default data sources that have been installed during as part of your installation itself. So you are no longer like, it's not needed for you to go and verify this data source or store it specifically within this desktop, but rather it is pre-installed for your comfort, for to help you to learn this particular Tableau interface. Okay. Now in the middle section where I did mention that this is specifically to access to the previously saved workbook, to easily connect and open that workbook, you can just navigate to this open section. So if you had worked on a different workbook previously and you might need to continue work on the same workbook, instead of looking back on the location where you might have saved that workbook, you can easily access to this open section, and that would give you the list of all the previously used workbooks within Tableau. Okay, and then on the bottom of this section, we also see this accelerators. So accelerators are nothing but the sample workbooks that have been pre-installed as part of the installation itself. And this would help you to understand the capabilities and functionalities that you can leverage using this Tableau desktop. So these are some sort of examples that have been provided from the product Tableau itself to help you understand how what are the benefits and what are the different ways of using Tableau desktop in a much efficient manner. So you can also get to know like certain tips and tricks of how you can use those requirements within your own need. Now, on the right side of this page, we see this Discover pane, and this Discover pane is mainly helpful for the new beginners of Tableau Desktop to allow them to easily learn and apply those learning methodologies within their requirement. So, there has been a list of training sections, so you can just navigate to the trainings that have been provided by Tableau, and you can be able to learn the topic and apply them as you do that together. And you also have some documentation which is a very clearly defined documentation from Tableau, and you will be able to easily understand that particular topic and learn and apply that throughout your project. So these are the different options that we see at the initial homepage when we try to access this Tableau desktop application as soon as it has been installed. Now, what are the ways of accessing or connecting to your specific data source? So, let's say that my data source is in Excel format, right? So, assuming that my data source is a Excel based data source and I would like to analyze this data set within Tableau, there are different ways how you can bring this up in Tableau or make this connection within Tableau. One is that from the connect section, you can just go to this to a file pane, and from there you can just choose the type of connector that you would like to connect to. So since this is an Excel based file, you can just select Microsoft Excel and access to that particular location and browse that particular file in Tableau. The other way that you can also do is that you can simply open that particular window, that folder where you have this data source stored, and you can simply drag and drop onto your open pane, and that will immediately connect within Tableau desktop, and that will bring up the sheets that are part of that particular Excel workbook. Now, my Excel workbook has three different tabs with orders, people, and returns. And the same way, this connection page has been updated to see uh, to refer to that particular name of the data source. So this is indicating the name of my data source to which I've made a connection now. And the connection is based out of a Microsoft Excel connector, and within this Microsoft Excel workbook, there are different sheets being part of it, and therefore this section is being automatically updated based on the type of data source that we are connected to. So since we have connected to a flat file, which is my Excel based file, so therefore I am able to see this section being updated to sheets. But in case if you're connected to a database like an Oracle DB or a SQL Server DB, this section would then be updated according to it. So it would be referred to as like the schema and the tables within it. Okay. So here the middle section is nothing but your canvas pane, where it would allow you to bring your table on which you would like to build the dashboard that is needed. Now on the top of the pane, you see the name of the data source connection. So you can just update the connection name. So in case if you think, okay, my data source name should be renamed to Superstore, you can just update it. So it's just a text bar, and you can just customize the name of your connection. Okay. And so let's try to bring in a table for us to analyze the different options that gets added up the moment we drag and drop. Now let me bring up this orders table onto my canvas, and the moment I drag and drop, this particular canvas pane has now been updated with additional information as well, where or the bottom section has now been updated with the metadata information of my orders table, with and also with the preview of my data, just to know like what are the different rows and columns that are existing in this particular table. And on the top right corner, we have some additional options which specifies what sort of a connection is this table being connected with in Tableau at the moment. So in Tableau, we have two different types of data connections. One is live, which is the default connection, and the other one is an extract connection. So there would be additional other videos that would follow along to explain you about the differences between both of them, and through different examples as well to understand more in depth of about this data connections topic. And then we also have this filter section on the top right corner, which would allow us to add and restrict what rows and values has to be populated within my Tableau worksheet level. So this would allow us to customize how your data should be introduced into Tableau desktop by restricting it at the very beginning itself, like at the data source level itself. Okay, so this entire page is nothing but the data source connection page, and this has got like four sections. Like I said, the connections section, and then we have the canvas pane where you actually drag and drop the tables for your modeling purpose, and below we have this metadata information. And next to that, we also see the preview of the data with the rows and columns along with the different data types to it. And on the top right corner, we also see the type of connection which the data source has now been connected to. And we have the flexibility to add data source filter as well. Okay, now let's try to understand a little bit about this canvas pane where we have this table being added up here. So the table that we've currently added up, so this area is referred to as the logical area. And in case if you are so in Tableau, we have two different ways of analyzing the data, like adding up the tables. So one is the by default logical area, the other one is the physical area. So if you would like to add the data on the physical layer, then you would like to click on this drop down next to this table name and click on open, and that would give you this interface where you can just build the model in the physical layer. So this is the physical layer, how you can go there. And this is the area where you can actually do this joins and everything. Okay, so these topics would be covered in the next video, so that it will be helpful for you to understand how and why do we go for a join, and what is the need to it, and what are its pros and cons as well. And if I just close that window, then we will come back to the logical layer. And this is a bit detailed topic which we would need to discuss in detail, so probably we will do that in a different video. Now, coming back to this metadata window that we see here, so here we see the name of the table where this metadata information has been provided. So you can just click on this drop down and you can see actually that this table is currently part of your logical area, and therefore it is saying logical tables, and within this logical tables you see this orders table being referenced to. Okay, and now we have this name of the table name given here, and sorry, so name of the table name, and below that we see the preview of the data, like the metadata information where you see the list of different fields and corresponding to that data type as well. So you have all the information at one go. And if you would like to close this expand this area to see the data preview, you can just click on this left arrow, and that would optimize the space for you to review the uh, look at the data within that particular table. Now, this is the preview of your table, which is from the orders table, and you can see all the list of different columns within it, and you can also see the data types allocated for each column name. So, the data type is by default allocated by Tableau itself. So Tableau would look at the values which have been stored within each column, and based on the values, it would identify and categorize them into different data types. Now, in case if Tableau might have misunderstood a certain column to be a different data type, you are always able to or allowed to change the data type to the right one by just clicking on this data type icon here, and you are allowed to choose the specific one which is relevant to that particular column. Now, there are additional options as well within this preview state itself, where in case if you'd like to split this particular column, or change the name of this column, or hide this column name because it is not required for your visualization, you can just hide those unwanted columns. Or you can also create aliases for the values which are existing within that particular column. So let's say that for US 2019 1000 103,800, if you would like to give that value a different name, then you can just use this aliases and reference that to a different name as well. And you are also able to create a new calculated field group, and you can create like you can do a split. Like there are two options of how you can create a split. Like one is the split that would by default Tableau would pick up the split logic that is inculcated behind the Tableau intelligence, or you can also use a custom split where you are allowed to specify based on which separator and which characters, or how you would like to split that particular column into multiple columns. Okay, and below you also have this option to describe this column, so you have additional information being portrayed as well. So you can just click on this describe, and that would give you some additional information about this column that you have selected, with the type of that particular column, from which table that you're using this, or from which table this column has been coming up, and what is the type of that column, and different values you can also see the values that are existing within the specific column. So you have a lot of information coming up within the describe field section. Now going on, here we also have some additional settings that you can configure for this data preview values. So you can just click on this settings, and you are able to see or provide some additional customizations. Like by default, the columns have been previewed based on the data source order, like from the data source. However, the columns have been created in that particular order, the values have been populated here, like the columns have been displayed in that particular sequence. But in case if you would like to sort the fields from a ascending mode or a descending order, you can just customize according to that requirement. And in case if you'd like to look at the hidden fields or the aliases, you can just select those options as well from this settings option. So, in case if you'd like to hide this data preview mode, this is the option that you are able to hide the data preview pane. So this drop down that you see in the next to the settings pane, that would allow you to hide or minimize or maximize. So it's not kind of a hide, but minimize or maximize. Similarly, for the metadata, you can just minimize or maximize. Okay. So this is all about the data source page that we have within Tableau. Now let's quickly go to the worksheet and look at the different options that we have within the worksheet level. Now this is the workspace. So on the top left corner, we see the name of this workbook name. So it says book one. So since we haven't saved the workbook yet, it has given the default name from Tableau, which is as book one. And below that, we see this list of menu options. And below that menu options, we have this different options within the toolbar. So this icons that you see here, this bar is nothing but the toolbar. And on the top right corner, we also have this option for show me. So show me is a list of pre-built charts that have been provided by Tableau, so you can just make use of these charts for your visualization directly. Now below this toolbar, we have data pane here. So this data pane has the name of the data source to which the connection has been established currently, and how this connection has been connected to, whether it's in a live connection or in an extract connection. And below that, we also have the search bar to look for a certain field or a column that you are interested for that particular requirement. Now you can search this field name by either using the search bar here, or next to that you also have this filter by. So you can just click on this filter by and choose the type of field that you are looking for. So for example, if you're trying to look for a field that is part of a calculation, right? So if you have created a calculation, then you can just simply select this calculation, and that would allow you to see the list of all the calculated fields that you might have created earlier. Okay, so this is the filter by option to allow you to restrict and filter the data based on how you would like to search for that respective value. Now next to that filter we have this grid. So this grid is nothing but the data pane, so where you can actually see through the data that is stored within my data source. So you can just click on this uh, grid, and that would give you the preview or the entire list of my data set, like what it is been stored there. So you will be able to understand what data is existing, like what kind of columns and what fields are there. And by default it is showing up only few columns but few rows, but you can just increase this count to see the actual data, like the total data. And you can also download this data from here itself directly, or you can also close that pane and you can just build your visualization as needed. Now below these options you have the table section. So the table section is actually holding all the field names that are coming in from the table that you have connected to. And there are some color distinction that you can notice here. One is in the blue pills and the other ones are in green pills. And there is a difference between both the blue and the green pills, and we will cover that in the following video. Okay, so blue indicates that these fields are discrete and the green indicates that these fields are continuous. So by default all the dimensions are categorized in the blue color and all the measures are categorized in the green color pills. Okay, so we will try to understand what is meant by a dimension and what is meant by a measure in the next videos. And there we will try to understand the different types of dimensions and measures as well. All right. So here, as we already seen in the data preview and in the metadata, we can see that for every field name or for every column name, we see this data type associated next to that. So by looking at this data type, we can easily understand like what type of values have been holding within that particular column. Okay. So next to that, we have this. Shelves, so different shelves. So in Tableau we have mainly row shelf, column shelf, pages shelf, and filter shelf. So these are the four different shelves that we have in Tableau. Now in case if these shelves are like, for example, by mistakenly you have placed these in different orders, like not in the default order, right? And you are not able to it's maybe it's not easy for you to restore it back to the default location. Then you can just use this toolbar that you see on the top, and this is the cards section where you can just go there, show or hide cards, and click on this reset cards. Now when you select this reset cards, all the shelves that we've just placed here and there would be gone to its default location. See, so this is your show and hide cards. And we also have different options within this toolbar. So the first option is nothing but your Tableau icon, which indicates that if you would like to navigate back to your start page of this Tableau desktop, you can just click on that icon and that would navigate to your start page or the home page. Now in case if you'd like to navigate back to the worksheet level, then you can again click on this Tableau icon, and that would allow you to go back to the worksheet page. And then in case if you have done some if you need to undo you whatever changes that you might applied on that visualization, then you can just use this undo or redo. And similarly you can just save the workbook, you can add a new data source, you can pause the auto updates, or you can add a new worksheet or a dashboard and a story as well by clicking on this drop down next to that, and that will allow you to connect or open a new worksheet, dashboard, or a new story. And then we have this duplicate sheet, and you can clear the worksheet in case if you think whatever that you have developed is not needed and you would like to clear it off and build from the scratch again, you can do a clear sheet. And you also have the swap. So swap is mainly to in like a swap the rows and columns that you have used for that particular viz. And these are the sorting icons. So if you need to sort the data based on ascending or descending, you can use either of them. And this is for the highlight data, and this is for the grouping members, and this is the text labels or the mark labels, and this is for fixing the axis that you have on that particular vis. And this is to adjust the size of your vis to like how the vis has to be adjusted to that particular area. So by default it is in standard, but in case if your vis needs to be adjusted to fit the width or height or entire view, you can just choose among those options. And like I said, this is to show or hide the cards, and this is for in presentation mode. So let's see quickly with an example and understand these options a little bit more deeper, and we'll try to understand the other options as well. So now let me try to build a visualization based on subcategory and sales. So the moment I bring in subcategory and sales on my row and column shelf, a default chart has been populated, and this is nothing but your bar chart. Now, if you notice here within my marks card, here we could see that there is an icon representation of bar, and it also says that it is an automatic. So, which means that this marks card chart is getting updated based on the fields that we drag and drop on our row and column shell. So, for example, if I bring in my region onto my, or let's say that, okay, I'd like to bring profit onto my row shell. Now, if you notice, the marks card has now been updated from default automatic bar chart to either shape or circle chart, right? And this is because we have multiple measures being added up, and this has been transformed to a scatter plot now. Okay, so I'll just remove it off. So this is your marks card, which would help you to add some additional context to your visualization by adding some color legend or sizing the uh, legend. Like, so this is your size legend to increase or decrease the size of that particular marks. So this is your bar chart here. So if you'd like to increase the width or decrease the width of your bar, you can just add that on the size legend. And label is to add the values next to that bar. You can enable this label. You can either do that from the marks card, or you can just enable it from the toolbar by clicking on the show mark labels. So both of them are the same. Okay, and then we have the detail and the tooltip. So tooltip is nothing but the small information box that would help you to understand what that particular data point is all about. So, for instance, if I just hover my cursor on this specific bar, you can see a small tooltip or a small information box which is helping us to understand what this bar is all about. So, it indicates that this is a subcategory for bookcases and the sales value is $1.15 million. So, by this, the tooltip is helping you to understand the data in a more precise manner. And you are also able to customize all these options and however your requirement is needed. So this is your active area. So the sheet one where you see this bar chart being created here, right? So on the top you see the sheet one. So sheet one is nothing but the name of this particular worksheet. So on the bottom you also see the sheet one. So if you give a name to this sheet one, like bar, the title of this particular sheet has also been updated accordingly. So by default, the title is always your referencing to the sheet name. So if you just leave it with the sheet name as is, whatever name that you give on the sheet name title, that would be reflected as a title for that particular worksheet. Okay. And you can always customize it as per your requirement. And then let's try to build some additional fields or some additional widths. So maybe if I try to bring in my segment on my color legend, you can see that the width has now been transformed from a single bar chart to a stacked bar chart, where all the different segment values are now been captured in a different color within that particular subcategory. So in that way you are able to understand what value does that particular segment hold within that subcategory. So you're able to bifurcate that entire data set based on your segment and subcategory. And these are the default colors that have been added up on your list. But in case if you need to customize the colors or the values, how that has been aligned here, you can always do that by going to the marks card. So you can just go to the color legend and edit colors, and you can just optimize or customize the colors as per your requirement. So you have different types of color palettes being provided, but in case if your organization does have a different color palette that needs to be used, that needs to be applied on your business, you can just create your custom color palettes and add them up for your Tableau visualization. Now on the bottom of the screen where you see the name of the data source, so this is saying okay, this is my data source page, and you see the worksheet name, and next to that you also see if you would like to create a new worksheet, you are able to create a new worksheet by clicking on this particular icon. Next to that you are allowed to create a new dashboard or a new story as well. But on the bottom of this page you also see the number of marks that have been portrayed here. So let's try to remove the segment from a colored legend, and if you notice the number of marks are now been reduced from 51 to 17 marks. So these 17 marks are nothing but how many values are been populated based on those fields that you've added on your row and column shelf. So at the moment we have 17 rows by one column. So there are 17 bars and based on a single column. And you also see the total aggregation of that particular measure that has been used in this worksheet. So here, since that I've used a sales value as a measure, it is giving us the total sales for that sales. Okay, so in this way, you are able to look at the total number of marks that have been used on this worksheet level and how many rows and the total aggregated value as well. Now, the moment you drag and drop segment on your color legend, you can see that the marks have now been increased from 71 to 51 because now that the data has been split based on both these subcategory and segment dimensions together. Okay, so this particular pane that we see here gets transformed according to the page that we are currently located. So, for example, if I navigate to my dashboard view, you can notice that my left section has now been transformed according to that particular dashboard requirement. So, this is specific to the dashboard design. So, you see the dashboard layout here on the top left corner, and below that, you also see this option to preview that device, whichever that you've selected, and to optimize the size of your dashboards and what are the different sheets that are available for the dashboard to be used. And below that we also see the objects for the formatting of the dashboard, like horizontal container, vertical container, blank sheet, text, image, and so on and so forth. And then you also have these different options like tiled and floating, like how you'd like to add these sheets onto your dashboard, whether it's in a tile format or in a floating format. You have this flexibility to choose between both of them. And this is specific for the dashboard view. Whatever options that we see at the moment, these are specific for the dashboard view. Now let's say that if I go to a story, then you can notice that these options are now been customized according to the story that we are using. So, based on the sheet or based on the view that you are viewing, that the options that you see on the left section are been updated and customized according to that particular option. So, if you're at a worksheet level, the options that you see there are different, and if you are on a dashboard view, the options that you see there are different, and if you're on a story view, the components that have been provided are different as well. Okay, so these are the different components that are provided when you are navigated to a story view. Okay, now coming back on the top right corner, like I said, we have this show me. So you can just click on that show me to expand the options within that. So you can just see that currently for these fields that I've applied on my row and column shell, these are the charts that have been available for us to customize. So the charts are not all the charts are active by default, but based on the fields that we have used in my active area, the charts are also been highlighted for us to use. Okay, so there are specifications on which chart to be used and what are the minimum requirements for each of them. Based on those minimum requirements, if that meets to the fields that we've used here already, those charts are made available for us to customize. Now, let's say that from this particular view, if I'd like to change this to a tree map. So I can just click on this tree map here from the show me, and that would transform my wiz directly to my tree map. So this just a click of a second, and you can just change the view and the wiz how you are looking at it, and you can then try to decide which data visualization is best uh, understood by the user to help them take the required data that you would like to present to them. Okay, so this is all about the show me. Now sometimes you might get to see that the data pane is been minimized, or you do not see the data section. So in those scenarios, what you can do is that you can just come back here and you can just click on this expand option, and then you are able to look back the data pane again. So if you'd like to minimize, you can just click on the sidebar here, the arrow that you see here, and that would be minimized. But if you, in case if you'd like to see that again, you can just click on that sidebar again, and that would come back again. Okay, so in this way you are able to minimize or maximize as per your requirement. Now this presentation mode is nothing but this would help you to understand once this dashboard has been published on the server, how the users are able to see this viz. So you can just click on this presentation mode to always help you understand how your viz should be formatted and presented to your end customer. So in that way you are able to replicate and customize it according to the best presentation for the end customer. So this is all about the initial interface of the Tableau workspace. So I hope this video is helpful for you to get started to understand what are the different options that we do have within the Tableau workspace environment. And in the next videos, we will dive into each of these options in detail and try to understand these topics in clear. So that's it for today. So hope you understood and you like this video. So please do leave a comment in the comment section, and please do give a thumbs up if you do like this video to help us promote this to a larger audience of the Tableau section. Thank you.